left off long about verse 31, where we're talking about that interesting subject, not too pleasant, of burning children. Sacrifice, child sacrifice. In Judah, God speaking to Judah here, Jeremiah, the prophet, writing it down, condemning them for all their idolatry and wickedness, even to the point they burn their sons and their daughters. I'll read verse 31 again. Jeremiah 7, verse 31. And they have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my heart. God never commanded any such thing of Israel, Judah. Child sacrificing and burning the children alive in the fire, which they picked up from the heathen peoples, the Canaanites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, Philistines, Phoenicians. They all had some form of this type of heathen worship, sacrificing children, burning children to heathen God. In Tophet, that name means place of burning, or fireplace. The valley of Hinnom, right outside of Jerusalem. That's where this type of idolatry took place, in particular other areas as well. In Hebrew, they call it Gai Hinnom, and that's where we get the Greek word Gehenna, used in the New Testament, translated hell in several places. Because it was associated with fire, this valley of Hinnom, Gehenna, Gai Hinnom, came to symbolize hell. During the New Testament time period, it's generally thought they burned trash there. Fires would burn day and night. So it represented the fires of hell. So that's how that word came to be used, to be translated hell in the New Testament. Jews today, they still use the word, the Hebrew Gai Hinnom, for the place where they believe the wicked go after death. They don't believe in the same concept that we have of heaven and hell. It's a little different. But they still use that same name, Gai Hinnom, for the place where the wicked go when they die. Again, the valley of Hinnom is wicked, evil, hard to imagine idolatry of burning children, infants, young children, in fire. Let's read a little further, verse 32. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be called Tophet, again, the place of burning, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. There's going to be a great slaughter there. For they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place. We'll run out of room. So many is going to die. It's referring to Babylonia when they come in to conquer Judah. All the death, so many Jews will be killed in this place where they sacrifice children. They will die and be killed to the point they'll run out of room to bury them. 33, and the carcasses of this people, in speaking of Judah, shall be meat for the fowls of the heaven, the vultures, and for the beasts of the earth, and none shall fray them away. That's the old English word, fray means to frighten. They won't be able to scare the vultures away, the scavengers away. There'll be so many of them. So much death. Verse 34, then will I cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride. So all the happy, pleasant things, the pleasant voices, will be gone. For the land shall be desolate and empty, a wasteland. You know, coming destruction, God's judgment upon Judah for their sins, for their idolatry. Any questions there on chapter 7 when we go into chapter 8? We're going to continue speaking here of the sin of Judah and the punishment that's coming to them here in chapter 8. Chapter 8, verse 1. At that time, saith the Lord, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah. I mean, bring out the tombs, the sepulchres where they were buried. And the bones of the princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves. So We're going to bring out the bones, which was a great indignity at that time to desecrate a grave, go in there and take the bones and bring them out. And God's speaking here of what the Babylonians would do. Their destruction would be so great, they'll even go and open up tombs, look if there's anything valuable that may have been buried with somebody, gold or silver, jewels, or anything. So they'll even desecrate the tomb. And verse 2 continues, and they shall spread them, the bones, spread them out everywhere, before the sun and the moon and all the host of heaven whom they have loved. Yet Israel they worship through the heathen idolatry. They brought in sun worship, moon worship, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered. The bones will be gathered. They'll just be left out, nor be buried. They shall be for dung, fertilized, if you will, upon the face of their bones will be scattered out. Desecration of all the tomb, and they'll just lay there, go back to the earth, dung for the earth. You know, it's part of the punishment, God's punishment upon Judah for the sin of wicked idolatry. And death shall be chosen rather than life. People will seek death. Be so bad. But all the residue of them that remain of this evil family, again speaking of Judah, which remain in all the places whither I have driven them, saith the Lord of hosts. Moreover, thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Lord, shall they fall and not arise? Shall they turn away and not return? Why then is this people of Jerusalem slidden back by perpetual backsliding? Verse 3 there probably better worded. Verse 4 better worded. Shall they return to him, and he not return to them? Speaking of God, that's a better way of wording it from the Hebrew. Again, slidden back by perpetual backsliding. They just kept backsliding into sin over and over and continuous. They hold fast deceit. They refuse to return to God, to what's right. Verse 6, I hearkened and heard, but they spake not aright. No man repented him of his wickedness, saying, what have I done? Again, I didn't think they'd done anything wrong. They'd fallen so deep into the sin. Everyone turned to his course, as the horse rusheth into the battle. They were quick to get back to the sin, the sinful ways, of course, the way of life. Yea, the stork in heaven knoweth her appointed time, knows her course, and the turtle as turtle dove, and the crane and the swallow observe the time of their coming. All your birds have a migratory pattern. The birds that are migratory, they'll certain time of the year again, usually the spring, summer, they'll come back into an area that warms up, and in the winter, if the area has a winter, they'll migrate south. That's a regular pattern, appointed times, appointed courses. Even the birds, he says, know their appointed times, their appointed courses. But my people, God says, speaking of Judah, know not the judgment of the Lord. Yeah, they didn't know the Lord. They've fallen away so far. They know not the judgment of the Lord. How do ye say, we are wise, and the law of the Lord is with us? And that's what they would say. Lo, certainly in vain made he it. The pen of the scribes is in vain. Talking about the law made in vain. The wise men are ashamed. They are dismayed and taken. Lo, they have rejected the word of the Lord. And what wisdom is in them? Again, the wise man from man's point of view, from Judah's point of view, but again, they did not have true wisdom in them. Verse 10, therefore will I give their wives unto others, and their fields to them that shall inherit saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Again, that's what they would say. Healed the wound slightly, or tried to say, peace, peace. There was no peace, no real peace. Were they ashamed when they committed abomination? Nay, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. They couldn't even blush. Yeah, they didn't have shame in them. They'd fallen so far. Therefore shall they fall among them that fall. In the time of their visitation they shall be cast down, saith the Lord. Again, coming destruction, the Babylonians, they'll cause them to really fall. I will surely consume them, saith the Lord. There shall be no grapes on the vine, nor figs on the fig tree, and the leaf shall fade, and the things that I have given them shall pass away from them. So again, he's not going to make any exception. That in the previous chapter, he talks about the Babylonians were basically like the gleaners would come in after the harvest. They pick up everything, every grape, every fig, wouldn't leave anything. And that's how complete the destruction is going to be, how complete God's judgment will be upon them. Verse 14, why do we sit still? This is Jeremiah speaking here, speaking to Judah. Why do we sit still? Assemble yourselves and let us enter into the defenced cities, and let us be silent there. For the Lord our God hath put us to silence, and given us water of gall. In gall, bitterness. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I'll get the next one. Gall symbolizes bitterness. Water of gall to drink, poison, venom. Because we have sinned against the Lord. Verse 15. We looked for peace, but no good came, and for a time of hell, and behold, trouble, terror. The snorting of his horses was heard from Dan. That's his city up in the northernmost tip of Israel. That was considered like the northernmost part in the city of Dan, not the tribe here. The whole land trembled at the sound of the neighing of his strong ones, for they are come and have devoured the land and all that is in it, the city and those that dwell therein. Again, but Assyria came in from the north, and they conquered the northern kingdom, Israel. And Babylonia, they're going to come in from the north, come in from where Dan is. Let's see, I think I got the map here with Dan on it. It is a 12-tribe map. So the city of Dan is up here. The tribe of Dan down here. But this is the very northern part. Assyria came in, took the 10 northern tribes, but now we're going to have the Babylonians come in from the north and take Judah, Benjamin, the southern tribes, the southern kingdom, away. So again, talking about coming in from the north, destruction from the north. Verse 17. For behold, I will send serpents, cockatrices. Again, that's another word for venomous snake, like an adder. Some translations say adders or vipers. Venomous snake. It comes from a mythological creature. It was half rooster and half snake. Yeah. But later on in English it came to just refer to like a venomous snake. So he's going to send serpents, snakes, even venomous snakes, cockatrices, among you which will not be charmed, and they shall bite you, saith the Lord. And he's speaking here of the Babylonians, kind of figuratively. There may have been some literal venomous snakes as well, but also the Babylonians were very much like snakes. Verse 18, when I would comfort myself against sorrow, my heart is faint in me. That's Jeremiah speaking there. Behold, the voice of the cry of the daughter of my people, that speaks of Jerusalem, because of them that dwell in a far country. Is not the Lord in Zion? Is not her king in her? Why have they provoked me to anger with their graven images, all the idolatry, and with strange vanity in foreign idols, foreign vanity? Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physicians there? Why then is not the health of the daughter of my people recovered? Why is the health of Jerusalem and Judah recovered? Gilead was known for its balm, for its medicine, its spices. I think I've got Gilead. Here it is, on the east side of Jordan. I don't visit the region of Gilead. They also have a city called Gilead. But this whole area was known for its spices, its balms, its ointments, its medicinal herbs that were grown there. That's why it speaks of this balm in Gilead. There's a hymn, some hymn books called There Is a Balm in Gilead. You know, that's what they were well known for. Gilead, that name means heap of testimony. The major source for your spices, your herbs, medicinal herbs, your balms, and your ointments. Jeremiah saying, isn't there anything to heal these people, to heal Judah of their sickness? So any questions there on chapter 8? Before we go a little further here, chapter 8. We're going to move into chapter 9. We'll look at some interesting subjects here as we get into chapter 9. We'll look at a subject that connects back to some things we studied the other night about Revelation. You'll see that when we get to it here, chapter 9. So Jeremiah chapter 9. We'll have the call for lamentation. Sad poem, sad song, that's a lamentation or lament. Chapter 9, verse 1. Oh, that my head were waters and my eyes a fountain of tears. This is Jeremiah speaking. He could use beautiful, flowing, poetic language. Speaking of sadness, lament, lamentation. That I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. He was known as a weeping prophet. He'd often speak in anguish and speak of weeping, crying. Waters, notice the word that says water, fountain, and tears. That's a literary figure where you have like a gradual ascent, gradual descent in this case. Another type of figure goes up. In this case it goes down. Waters in general, and more specific, a fountain, and even more specific tears. A gradual descent called a catabasis. That's a literary term, and it's done for emphasis. One of those many type things you see in Jeremiah throughout the Old Testament, part of the very poetic and stylistic nature of the book. All types of little literary figures like that to emphasize and add extra special emphasis on verses and passages of Scripture. But again, Jeremiah speaking in anguish for Jerusalem, for Judah. Verse 2, oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people and go from there. And he wants to get away from them so bad. For they be all adulterers, an assembly of treacherous men. Judah, as we say. And they bend their tongues like their bow for lies. Or they prepare or make ready their tongue, just like the archer will get the bow ready to shoot the arrow. They get the tongue ready, prepare it, make ready to tell a lie. But they are not valiant for the truth upon the earth. For they proceed from evil to evil. No good in them. They go from evil right to more evil. And they know not me, saith the Lord. They know not God. Take ye heed every one of his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother. Don't trust any man. For every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor will walk with slanderers. Supplant, that can be translated deceive. Some translations say every brother is a deceiver. Supplant means to supersede or take the place, replace someone else through force, through scheming. Jacob, one definition of that name is supplanter, deceiver, contender. The the heel grabber, that's what it literally means. His name Jacob grabbed his brother Esau's heel whilst they were in womb being birthed. But supplant, again, speaks to deception. Every man a deceiver, a supplanter, seeking to take his neighbor's place. Verse 5, and they will deceive every one his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity. Taught their tongue to speak lies. He says they're wear themselves out committing sin. They just can't stop it. Instead of working to do good things and expending effort, they're working to sin. Verse 6, thine habitation is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit they refuse to know me, saith the Lord. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will melt them and try them, like metal. I will refine them. You can translate melt. Like silver, like gold, has to be heated and refined. For how shall I do for the daughter of my people? Their tongue is as an arrow shot at, or their tongue is as a piercing arrow, if you translate that, a pointed arrow, a deadly arrow, I believe NIV said. That's how the tongue is. It speaketh deceit. One speaketh peaceably to his neighbor with his mouth, but in heart he layeth his way, or he sets a trap. He lies in wait. You ever seen people like that? They say real nice, flattering things with their mouth and their lips, but there's evil boiling down inside. They're ready to set a trap for their neighbor, their brother. Verse 9, shall I not visit them for these things, saith the Lord? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? Again, God's been very patient with Israel, Judah, but he could only put up with so much. He could only wait so long. For the mountains will I take up a weeping and wailing, and for the habitations or pastures of the wilderness a lamentation, because they are burned up, so that none can pass through them. Neither can men hear the voice of the cattle. Both the fowl of the heavens and the beasts are fled. They are gone. Again, speaking to the coming destruction. In the lamentation, that's like a poem, a sad, mournful poem or song or hymn. Jeremiah wrote a whole book of Lamentations. It's right after the book of Jeremiah. And again, very expressive, emotive, passionate songs, poems, if you will, of grief. That's what a lamentation is. Verse 11, and I will make Jerusalem heaps. All the buildings, everything destroyed, is piled up heaps. And a den of dragons. Dragons, that's jackals. What the Hebrew word means. A jackal like a coyote that scavenges. And in the Bible, they symbolize desolation, emptiness. They're often mentioned in connection with the city being destroyed, or nation. They come in after everything's been destroyed to scavenge the bodies, food, or whatever they can find. So jackals, they always symbolize desolation. And I will make the cities of Judah desolate, without an inhabitant. Who is the wise man that may understand this? And who is he to whom the mouth of the Lord hath spoken, that he may declare it? For what the land perisheth, and is burned up like a wilderness, that none passeth through. And the Lord saith, because they have forsaken my law, which I set before them, and have not obeyed my voice, neither walked therein, but have walked after the imagination of their own heart. Or the stubbornness, you need to translate that, the stubbornness That's what they've gone after. That's where the heart was, in that island. Verse 15, therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. Well, we learned a little bit about wormwood the other night, studied Revelation, I believe in chapter 8, verse 11. The star called wormwood will fall to the earth and cause the waters to become bitter, unusable, poison, if you will. And wormwood is mentioned a number of times in Scripture. Wormwood always represents and symbolizes bitterness. And wormwood itself is an herb, a plant, that is bitter, has a bitter taste. It's a type of artemisia. If you're familiar with some of your flowers, they have a number of types of artemisia you can plant. But wormwood is, again, artemisia. It has a feathery, gray, silvery looking foliage, leaves. It can get tall about 4 feet, 5 feet or so, that's the maximum. Or usually it's a little shorter than that. And it's long been used for medicinal purposes. That's a medicinal word for all kinds of things. And it's called wormwood. Can you guess how it got that name? It was used to treat worms in people and children. That's why it's called wormwood. You know, that used to be a pretty big thing when children would run around barefoot all the time in the fall. They get worms. Some of you may have had to take castor oil for that, or kerosene. They used to give children a spoonful of kerosene. You ever have to take any of that? I've heard some of the old timers talk about that. Or sugar and a spoon with a little bit of kerosene on top of it, and that was supposed to kill the worms. You've heard of that one? That would get rid of the worm. But wormwood, they make an oil from it and use that to treat the worm. But it was used for a lot of stuff. It have all kinds of like antibacterial, antibiotic type properties, antifungal, insecticidal, like killing worms. Again, it's all been used for that. Again, it's mentioned 7 times in the Old Testament, I believe, the word wormwood, twice in the New Testament there in Revelation 8. Again, mentioned a number of times, always symbolizes bitterness. Some of you might know it's also used to make a very strong liquor. Those of you who used to be drinkers, absinthe, but that's something that was illegal in America for a long time, about 100 years. It's been legal in Europe, countries over there. It was very strong, and it had this wormwood in it, which wormwood contains a chemical that's believed to affect the brain in a negative way, and that's why it was illegal here. Well, several years back they legalized it, but it doesn't have that chemical in it, so you can't buy the pure absinthe here in America if you're looking for some of that. But it's very strong liquor. It's also used in vermouth, but that's the flavor that traditionally was, not so much nowadays. So again, it's had a lot of uses throughout history, again, but in Scripture it's always symbolizing and representing bitterness. Bitterness. The bitterness of destruction. The bitterness of God's complete judgment. Another little interesting thing, you might remember back in 1986, there was something called Chernobyl. That's in Ukraine, where the country of Ukraine is today. Back then it was all part of the Soviet Union. And you had a nuclear meltdown at the Chernobyl nuclear facility, nuclear power plant. And again, it had to evacuate a huge area. It's still a dead zone. They won't let anyone get within about a 20-mile radius of that city. Well, the word Chernobyl means wormwood. And when that happened, some Christians thought, well, maybe that's a sign of the end, because of Revelation 8. But again, that was 40 years ago, so probably not a sign of the end, but that's just an interesting little connection of that name Chernobyl. sense, it can refer to any poison, even like snake venom, which we saw back in the last chapter about the venom of snakes. So it speaks of poison water, water that of poison. Gall also is another word for bile, what the liver produces, and that's bitter. If you've got to eat beef liver, or calf liver, pork liver, chicken liver, it's a little bit bitter. That's why some people don't like it. The liver is a little bit bitter. That's because of the bile. Some people just don't care for that taste. And that's how the gallbladder got its name, because it stores the bile. Gall is another word for bile. So gall, again, bitterness, poison, venom. Again, God's destruction, God's punishment on Israel. So there's a little extra lesson on wormwood and gall. You got any questions on that before we move on a little further? I'd like to throw in a little extra things for you that you won't get at the other churches, you know. They leave up some of this stuff. I try to throw it in at no extra charge. So let's move on a little further, if you will. If you're still there in chapter 9, you didn't drift off too far. Let's pick up in verse 16. Again, remember that bitterness, poison, God's going to put upon the punishment for sin. And here's some more punishment. God, verse 16 says, I will scatter them also among the heathen. Speaking of Judah, the Jews, whom neither they nor their fathers have known, people they've never known. And I will send a sword after them, Babylon, until I have consumed them. Both the northern tribe, the northern kingdom, was scattered in Assyria amongst their empire, and they became lost. They referred to as the lost tribes of the house of Israel. They kind of mixed in and became, their separate identities became lost. But the Jews also will be scattered, although some of them will return. If you know the story again in Ezra and Nehemiah, under Persia, some of the Jews returned to Judah, to Jerusalem. But God will scatter them. Verse 17, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye and call for the mourning women, that they may come, and send for cunning women, that they may come. Back at that time, something they do, they would hire women to mourn. Like if somebody passed away, and they wanted to have a nice procession to the graveyard or where the tomb or sepulchre were, they'd hire women, and they'd dress in black, and they'd wail and cry, and make all kind of mournful sound. That's what he's talking about, the mourning women. Go out and hire some mourning women, because it's going to be a sad time. And they're still even doing this type of thing, even into the 1800s, even more recent than that. People would hire women and other people, paid mourners, to come to the funeral and sit there on the front two pews and look real sad and wail and cry. So that was a common thing even up into the more modern time. Mourning women, paid mourners. And cunning women, that's skillful women. You'll need some of them too. Skillful in business. Verse 18, and let them make haste and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears and our eyelids gush out with waters. For a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. How are we spoiled? We are greatly confounded, because we have forsaken the land, because our dwellings have cast us out, or because they have cast down our dwellings. Probably a little better way to word that. Our houses are in ruins. Our dwellings are in ruins. Verse 20. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O ye women, and let your ear receive the word of his mouth, and teach your daughters wailing, and every one her neighbor lamentation. So you better get them ready for what's to come. Teach them how to wail, and say and sing a sad lamentation. For death has come up into our windows, and has entered into our palaces, to cut off the children from without, and the young men from the streets. Speak, thus saith the Lord, even the carcasses of men shall fall as dung upon the open field, and as the handful after the harvestman. none shall gather them. The bodies with all the death, all will be killed. They just lay there, nobody to bury them. Gather them up, remove them, just lay there for the vultures and the jackals and all the animals to consume. Verse 23, thus saith the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Again, this destruction is going to fall upon everyone, whether you're a fool or you're wise. Neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches. So you got three things there that men will often boast of: wisdom, might, and riches. But it's not going to matter when this judgment of God comes upon them. Verse 24, but let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord. That's quoted in 1 Corinthians 1:31. Again, that's important. The key word there is knoweth me. A lot of people might claim they know God, but again, they don't really know him. Which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight, saith the Lord. Again, he's been very merciful, fair, patient with Judah. Again, he can only do that for so long, put up with their sin and idolatry for so long. Verse 25, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will punish all them which are circumcised with the uncircumcised. Or another way of putting that, he will punish those that are circumcised only in the flesh. He's talking about Judah, the Jews, but not circumcised in the heart. They're circumcised physically, but not spiritually, if you will. That's another way of putting it. Yet he's going to punish all those that are circumcised externally, physically, in the flesh, but they're not circumcised in the heart. That's what he's talking about there. Verse 26. Egypt and Judah and Edom and the children of Ammon and Moab and all that are in the utmost corners that dwell in the wilderness. For all those nations are uncircumcised. They were uncircumcised again physically in the flesh. They were not circumcised in the flesh like the Jews. And all the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart. He said Israel, they're basically equal to these heathens, even though they're circumcised under the law physically, but again, not in the heart, not spiritually. Their heart, not in the right condition. It has not been circumcised. Any questions there on chapter 9? Chapter 9. Chapter 10 kind of continues. We might read a couple verses there in chapter 10. More of God speaking of the sin of Israel. We'll read just a couple verses in 10. A couple minutes. Chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hand of the workman, with the axe. They deck it with silver. Some of you are familiar with this passage. I mentioned it about Christmas time. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do good. The part about the tree there, idolatry, heathen worship, they would worship wooden idols, they would worship trees. shouldn't put up a Christmas tree, because it talks about decking it with silver and with gold. Well, this is long before Christ was born, so this doesn't have anything to do with a Christmas tree, an actual Christmas tree. And it doesn't say that it was an evergreen tree, so we don't know really. It could have been an oak or most any kind of tree. So it isn't really connected, we can say, to Christmas celebration and the Christmas tree. I've talked about the origin of the Christmas tree when I've done a Christmas lesson. Do that most every year before Christmas. The origin of the Christmas tree generally believed to originate in Germany for the most part, in that area, what we think of as a Christmas tree, long after the time of Jeremiah, on into the 1500s, 1600s AD. So this was something different, and this was pure idolatry, heathen worship. People that put up a tree, decorate it, and bow down before it, just like the Asherah poles I talked about, those sexual idols made of wood, they stick them in the ground, bow down and worship. And Judah, Israel before them, had become so involved in all of this heathen idolatry. Verse 6, for as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? For to thee doth it appertain, for as much as among all the wise men of the nation, and in all their kingdom, there is none like unto thee. And that's what they should be saying, to be what Jeremiah is speaking there. But in Judah had gotten so far away from Jehovah, from the true God, and had fallen so deep into the idolatry of the false God. So we're going to stop right about